Back in the 1980s, former Richmond Spiders basketball coach Dick Tarrant created the Giant Killer's reputation around his program, lower-ranked teams with a history of knocking off bigger teams in the NCAA tournament. Some of the players from back then have gone on to successful careers in basketball. Many have gone on to the NBA in one capacity or another. One is achieving his success in a much different way, one he never considered before he came to Richmond.
As chief of police for the county of Henrico.
When he was sworn in as the new police chief for Henrico County earlier this year, Eric English made some history. He is the first African-American to hold that position in county history, and he continued a professional journey he never would have considered as a teenager.
Law enforcement really was never a goal of mine. I am just shocked. I would have been shocked as a youth to say I was going to be a police officer. That was never in my thought process.
English came to the University of Richmond in the mid-'80s as a moderately recruited basketball player out of a small town in North Carolina. Legendary Tar Heels coach Dean Smith even recruited English to play at Chapel Hill, but made it very clear to him that his offer was contingent on another player's decision first. Instead, he came to play for Spiders head coach Dick Tarrant, but he would have to change his focus as a player.
He'll tell you, he was never a star. He never got a headline, but he was so solid. But when he went into a game, you knew he was going to play very sound defense, right in your jersey defense.
They would put me in, and to try to shut whoever the team's best player was. And so it wasn't, coming out of high school, I was a scorer. And so it's the same thing in this profession. You got to find your niche.
Tarrant would have former FBI agents talk to his players each year about the dangers of point shaving and other illicit activities that could easily derail a career. English had ideas of becoming an agent, which led him to a criminal justice degree and a love for law enforcement.
You got to have a passion for it, and there is a calling when it comes to law enforcement.
English was a part of the first Spider team to make the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament back in 1988. His athletic accomplishments alone would be enough to make his time at U of R memorable. But it was how he carried himself off the court and in the classroom that made the biggest impression. 4 or
5 years ago, Eric had a ceremony when he was sworn in as deputy police chief in Richmond. And at the ceremony, there's a dean of the College of Arts and Science here. He had Eric as a student when he was a professor. So I said to Eric, did you send out many of these invitations to these big shots? He says, he just showed up. I didn't invite him. It's just sort of typical of the respect he had from everyone.
That respect will now extend to the better than 1,000 sworn and civilian employees of the Henrico Police Department, who will be looking to English to guide them through turbulent times for law enforcement. English sees policing as a direct parallel to sports, in that sense of teamwork and responsibility to others before self, just as his coach taught him.
Sometimes, you'd have an injury. You might turn an ankle, or you might feel like you didn't want to practice that day. He just drove you to push yourself through those obstacles. And sometimes this job is the same way.
Now this is a challenge. In this present climate, he has taken on a challenge. He never turned down a challenge before. He didn't turn this one down.
There's people out there that are counting on you, just as it is in sports. Your teammates are counting on you, and you don't want to let them down.
We joked with Chief English about fitting into those shorts that players wore back in the day, and he had to admit he might only get one leg into them these days. The Spiders have also gone back to English's hometown in North Carolina for one of their current players, Connor Crabtree, who also graduated from Orange High in Hillsboro before spending a post-grad season at Hargrave Military Academy. If you would like to nominate someone to be profiled, email us at beyondtheroster@WTVR.com.